Hey gang, Voltie here with another sweet brew from the Brewing with Voltie series. Today is going to be Moon Stompy. I've tried to make a couple of stacks decks or stacks adjacent decks work in 8-point for a while. I think this is going to be one of the better versions. So if you're a Blood Moon enjoyer, hop in and let's have a look. So for Planeswalkers, we've got Chandra TOD, which is one of the best red Planeswalkers printed. Khan Scion of Urza, which makes Saga tokens, essentially. And we do have quite a lot of artifacts for that. And Khan the Great Creator, which works as both a hate piece as well as a toolbox. Our creatures, there's nothing too special here, if I'm honest. One of the classic components of a Moon Stompy deck is that your threats don't really matter. They just need to be efficient, they need to kill quickly, and they need to be easy to cast under moon effects and the like. Sorceries, we've got Chain Lightning and Shatterskull Smashing, nothing too crazy. We've got some removal spells and a Price of Progress in the instant slot to end the game. But let's get into the artifacts, which is where the stacks element of the deck really comes through. So we have a full suite of available mana accelerations. We've got Chrome Mox, Lotus Petal, Mox Opal, Mana Vault for 1 point, and Sol Ring for 3 points, as well as the Simian Spirit Guide. This deck can't play a Mox Diamond, because it's 8 points, but if you like the archetype and you've got a Mox Diamond lying around, you can shave a point and play it, and that would probably be fine as well. For hate pieces, we have Chalice of the Void, Sphere of Resistance, Thorn of Amethyst, Winter Moon, Winter Orb, and Trinisphere. These are all main deck. You can play most of them on turn 1, assuming that you've mulliganed aggressively, at which point your opponent will be slowed down, and you can start developing your threats to close the game out. There's a bit of filler as well here. We've got Maze Mine Tome, Reckoner, Bankbuster, and the One Ring as ways to draw cards and offset the early card disadvantage of ramping out these big spells. We've got a Blood Moon and we've got a Fable, no craziness there. The mana base is quite cheap for this deck. It has an Ancient Tomb, which you may have from Commander. It has Arena of Glory, which is a way to give haste to creatures. A Crystal Vein, which honestly you can play or not. A Gemstone Caverns, which you can cut if you'd like, or you can put it in the sideboard. And then a bunch of basics. Our sideboard has a small Khan package, as mentioned. So we've got a bit of Graveyard Hate, we've got a bit of removal, we've got a Jet for creature matchups, we've got a Bridge for big creature matchups, we've got a Micah's and Lattice to end the game, and a Torpor Orb for most of the combo decks that might interrupt you, as well as a Damping Sphere for the ones that fall through the cracks. And then for actual spells in the sideboard, we've got 2 Rebs, a Generous Plunderer for the artifact decks, an Experimental Frenzy for the blue decks, and a Chandra, which is very specifically for control decks. Don't overboard this card in, but it is basically unbeatable in those spots. It's a pretty simple deck in terms of actually playing it. If you do decide to put this together and give it a spin, you want to be mulliganing really aggressively to make sure that you're interacting with the board and putting stacks pieces into play, ideally from turn 1, but at the minimum on turn 2. Don't keep a hand just because you can cast a turn 3 Lelia, for example. It's not going to be good enough, it's not going to do anything. So going down to 6 or 5, very reasonable. If you have a 5-card hand that's, kind of sketchy, the deck probably can't function too well if you mulligan all the way down to 4, but at the minimum you need to be making sure that you're doing, some of this hate in the early turns of the game. Otherwise, if you'd like to build this and you'd like to tinker with it, there's lots of different things you can do. There's plenty of hate pieces that aren't in the deck that do exist in Magic, and depending on your metagame, you might want to look into them. Tanglewire is one of them. Smokestack is one of them. There's a couple of different options in terms of hate pieces and what you do. You can play a Vexing Bauble, for example. But otherwise, it's the artifacts here that are important, and you can replace the threats with realistically whatever you want. If you want to play a Shivan Dragon, you can probably get away with it as long as you've locked up the game hard enough. Otherwise, that's Moon Stompy. That's my take on a stacks variant in the 8-point space. Let me know if you give it a spin and if you do well in an event. But otherwise, the deck will be in the deck list below. and I'll see you next time. This video was brought to you with the help and support of my patrons up here. If you'd like to support me and my content or see your name on screen, you can click the link below. If you like the content, please subscribe if you can. You can be notified of upcoming videos. It's free for you, and it's more important than you'd think for me in terms of growing the channel. But otherwise, leave a like if you liked the video, and I'll catch you next time.